Hello, my friend. Welcome to your sleep story. My name is Stephen Dalton. I'm an Irish storyteller, and it's my great privilege to be the voice that you listen to as you go to sleep tonight. Tonight's story is about family. It's about the passing on from one generation to the next. In it, we will hear of Catherine and her husband, who inherit a little cottage in the countryside, and we will learn of how they find deep peace and meaning in a very beautiful place. This story was written by my niece, Megan Moore, and I really hope you like it. One small thing, if you'd like to support my work, you can do so through Patreon. The link for Patreon is below this video. Okay, let's do the relaxation session now, which will take a few minutes before tonight's sleep story. I'm going to count down from 10 to 1, and as I do, allow yourself to let go more and more. 10. Feel the support of the bed beneath you, or the floor, or whatever you lie upon tonight. And beneath all of that, feel the support of the earth, our home. Feel the constantness of it. Feel that you can let go a little more now as you become more and more aware of that deep support, that constant support. 9. You are safe. Allow my voice to be an anchor of safety tonight, to be a friend. Know that my voice will only ever take you to safe places. And with that knowledge, see if you can sink into this moment a little more now. Letting go a little more now. Eight. Feel into your body. Where are you still holding? Maybe you feel pain. Maybe you feel tension. Perhaps in your feet, in your lower legs. Maybe in your belly, or in your chest, or in your hands, or arms, or maybe you're like me, and you hold the tension in your face. Wherever it is, just allow it to release now. 7. The day is done. Whatever has been has been. Whatever will be, will be. Whatever thoughts you may be having, just recognize them as part of the condition of being human. They will always come and go. And as they arrive, they are not to be fought with or repelled. Welcome them. See them for what they are, and let them go, and watch them float away like leaves on a moonlit river, or clouds passing in a starlit sky. Six. This is your moment. This is your time. You have nowhere to go now. Nowhere to be. So allow that fact to bring you into this moment even more now. To let go even more now. Five. Perhaps begin to feel a little gratitude now. Gratitude for this moment. Gratitude for the simple things. The breath in your body. The shelter you have tonight. The people that mean something to you. The simple things. 4. Peace lives within you. It is always there, waiting to be found, waiting to be felt. It is your constant friend. See if you can feel that peace tonight. See if you can find it. 3. Begin to engage with your imagination now. Imagine a little cottage far away from all that you know. There's a dog there, some cows, goats, chickens. There's a family. This is the place that you will be visiting tonight. Enjoy this feeling of letting go now and embracing this other place. 2. Checking in with your body one more time now. Your body has worked hard for you today. It's time to give it rest. And 1. Completely letting go now. As I tell you tonight's sleep story. Catherine and David were happy newlyweds, eager to start the rest of their lives together. Both had lived nearly all their lives in the heart of the city, and it held many memories for them. The coffee shop where they first met, the park where they had their first date, and even the church where they got married, all took place in the city. Yet, amidst all the bustling charm, the couple found themselves yearning for something different. They knew they wanted to start a family one day, but the question arose of where they would decide to settle. To remain in the city was the comfortable choice, with both of them being extremely familiar with the towering buildings and the maze of streets. However, there was a certain allure to starting their lives somewhere new and unfamiliar. The answer to their predicament seemed like a distant one, until one crisp spring morning, the post brought news that would make their decision a lot easier. Catherine received a letter informing her that her great-aunt Violet, a determined lady whom she'd only encountered a handful of times in her life, had passed away. Within the condolences in the letter was also a surprising bit of information. Catherine had inherited Great-Aunt Violet's homestead in the country, a quaint, charming cottage that sat among rolling hills and wild forests. Catherine had few memories of the place, having only visited once or twice in her childhood. But she remembered it having a large garden and a barn for animals. The funeral was the following Sunday, and Catherine and David attended to pay their respects. It was an intimate ceremony, with distant cousins and old friends of Violet. Catherine sought out her grandmother in the crowd and embraced her, offering her condolences for the loss of her sister. Catherine's grandmother smiled warmly. She was a tenacious woman. She fought until the very end, she said with a long sigh. I always joked that she loved animals more than children. I can rest easy knowing that she has reunited with them in the afterlife, she said with a light chuckle. Catherine smiled and placed a hand on her grandmother's shoulder. I remember she had lots of critters running around that cottage of hers when I used to visit as a child. Her grandmother nodded, her eyes warm with the memories. Yes, although I believe now it's your cottage, isn't it? I still don't understand why she willed it to me of all people. I know she never had any children, but we weren't very close, Catherine expressed, confusion evident in her features. Her grandmother simply shrugged. Consider it a wedding gift. I'm sure it will need a lot of work, though, seeing as she spent the last of her years in the city to be close to the hospital. I don't think anyone has looked after it in over 5 years. Before Catherine could inquire more about her great-aunt and her final decision, her grandmother was approached by a group of cousins to give their condolences. The couple stayed for some time before taking their leave. After some more discussion with David, it appeared that this was the couple's sign to leave the city life behind and settle down in the country. David was supportive of the decision, fully ready to embrace this new chapter of their lives. Over the next few days, Catherine and David packed up what few possessions they had into battered suitcases and boxes. They didn't own much, only the few essentials they had acquired during their time living in the apartment. Once they filled up the mover truck, they bid a final farewell to their apartment, ending this chapter of their lives before starting a new one. As the city's skyline receded behind them, a snow-capped mountainscape appeared ahead. Catherine rolled down the window as they passed rolling hills and vast lakes, breathing in the clean, natural air and allowing the breeze to jostle her wavy brown hair. After 2 hours of navigating the country roads, David slowed the truck to a halt before an overgrown dirt path. "Are you sure this is it?" David questioned, looking doubtfully at the tree-lined dirt road. Catherine pulled out the neatly folded map. "Yes," she said, after double-checking. "This is it." David shrugged and gently guided the truck down the uneven road. Dust and gravel kicked up beneath the tires as they ventured onward, admiring the way the tree branches formed a natural archway overhead. After a few minutes, of navigating down the rocky road that seemed to stretch endlessly. A small stone cottage emerged in the distance. Catherine's heart sang at the sight of their new home. The small stone structure had surely seen better days, but its charm was undeniable. The green, paint-chipped shutters were closed shut, with ivy trailing up the thick stone walls. The roof was slouched from years of neglect, with missing and broken tiles that desperately needed attention. Despite its flaws, the couple immediately fell in love with it as they saw its potential. While David positioned the truck in front of the cottage, Catherine approached the old oak door and placed the brass skeleton key into the lock. It took some finessing, but eventually the lock gave way with a click, and Catherine pushed the green door open. Inside, the cottage was untouched, a lifetime of memories frozen in time. Stacks of books sat on nearly every surface, and the furniture was worn and covered in layers of dust. The musty air smelled of aged books and wood. However, while one might see an old, worn cottage lost to time, Catherine and David saw a home and a place to raise a family. They imagined a fire in the hearth, shelves full of books, old and new, and baking bread in the kitchen. The couple said nothing. Instead, they shared a knowing glance, the excitement of their new life evident in their eyes. So they rolled up their sleeves and got to work. David wrestled with the ivy, blocking the shutters outside so they could open the windows and get some fresh air flowing, while Catherine began dusting off the furniture, setting aside pieces that needed to be restored. They spent their first few nights sleeping on their mattress on the floor in the bedroom and eating canned soup and bread. But they enjoyed every moment of it because they were doing it together. The cottage was slowly coming to life, as Catherine and David filled it with laughter and joy. Many obstacles they faced, they conquered together and made new memories while doing so. Soon, their personal touch began to shine throughout the cottage. David embraced his new handyman lifestyle, learning as he went. He managed to restore the furniture and repair the holes in the roof. Catherine breathed life into the cottage by polishing the original wood flooring and repainting the windows a livelier shade of green. Once the interior of the house was to their liking, the couple could finally turn their attention to the rest of the property. The garden was overgrown with weeds and full of dried brown crops that had perished without the necessary care. The small garden shed had broken windows, and the barn had missing panels and a busted door. The couple devoted their spring and summer to the property. Their hands became calloused and stained with soil after laboriously pulling out all the weeds, clearing the dead plants, and tilling the soil. Catherine acquired seeds from the local farmer's market and planted them in neatly labeled plots. She planted vegetables like tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, and beans, as well as vibrant flowers to attract bees and butterflies. Catherine spent her evenings poring over some of Great Aunt Violet's old books. She felt like she was getting to know her great aunt better through the notes she had jotted down in the margins of her books. It was as if she was there, helping the couple bring the cottage back to life through her experiences and knowledge written on yellowed pages. Meanwhile, David tackled the structural challenges of the property and made friends with the neighbors who would frequently help him with his projects, generously offering their tools and expertise. They restored the garden shed to its former glory and painted it baby blue. After, they replaced the missing panels from the barn and got a new sturdy door before fixing up some of the damaged fences around the perimeter of the property. Upon request from Catherine, David built a small chicken coop near the barn. David accepted the challenge and built a cozy structure fit with nesting boxes and a secure run. The final touch was the wooden sign that hung above the door, which read, "The Hen Hideaway." As the season turned and leaves turned hues of red and orange, they bought a dozen baby chicks from a neighbor to fill the chicken coop. Catherine loved to start her mornings by feeding them, listening to their little chirp as they pecked at seed. Soon, their chicks grew into hearty, plump hens that began to produce eggs each morning. The couple grew fond of the call of the rooster each dawn, joking that it was their dependable and delightfully rustic alarm clock. Some months passed when their neighbor reached out with an unusual request. A small, scruffy brown cow had been abandoned and needed a new home. Without hesitation, the couple agreed. They prepared a little home for the small brown cow in the barn, stocked with fresh hay, and they welcomed the little cow with open arms. It didn't take long for the cow to settle into her new life at the cottage, enjoying the gentle pets from Catherine and the treats from David. Soon enough, they began to add milking the cow to their growing list of daily tasks. The cow didn't remain alone in the barn for long. Catherine reasoned that it was a big barn, and it would be a shame to let all the space go to waste. They brought in a handful of goats into the mix. The sprightly creatures added some playful energy and entertainment to the barnyard. The couple weathered out the winter relatively smoothly. There were some snowstorms that they had to dig themselves out of, but they ensured all of the animals were cared for and warm. They enjoyed the cold winter nights by the hearth, drinking hot cocoa and sharing their dreams with one another. By the time spring rolled around once more, Catherine turned her focus back to the garden, which quickly became the cornerstone of their self-sufficient lifestyle. However, she noticed that her garden was suffering from pests and bugs that nibbled away at leaves and infected the roots of her plants. Frustrated, but determined, Catherine turned to Great Aunt Violet's notebooks for guidance. As she pored over the notes, she discovered ducks were great natural pest controllers and would be helpful in the garden to keep pests at bay. Intrigued, Catherine shared the idea with David, and a week later, a little flock of ducks roamed the garden freely. Catherine loved watching them waddle about from the kitchen window, listening to their cheerful quacks as they patrolled the garden plots. True to Great Aunt Violet's advice, they kept the pests at bay and added an adorable touch to the thriving garden. They filled their kitchen with the fruits of their labor. Catherine and David learned how to cook, using the fresh vegetables from their garden, eggs from their chickens, and milk from their cow and goats. Living in the country was a learning process, but the more they practiced, the better they got at living off the land. The couple started each morning, excited to tend to their animals and harvest fresh produce from their garden. Their days were slow and peaceful, and always full of joy as they deepened their connection with the land. On nice evenings, they would sit on their porch and watch the sun dip below the horizon of trees and mountains, while their animals settled in for the night. They marveled at how far they had come in just over a year. What was once a neglected cottage in dire need of repair was now a flourishing homestead full of life and purpose. One crisp morning, as David made his usual round along the perimeter to check the fence, a small whimper gave him pause. He crouched down and scanned through the tall grass, pushing aside branches of bushes for the source of the sound. There, nestled in a pile of leaves, was a tiny, fuzzy puppy staring up at him with wide brown eyes. David felt his heart melt in his chest at the sight of the lost pup, and he gently coaxed the little critter toward him. The puppy whimpered again before hesitantly approaching David's outstretched hand, its tail wagging cautiously. Once it was within reach, David scooped it up and wrapped his coat around it to shield it from the cool morning breeze. The puppy instantly began to lick his scruffy chin in appreciation. With the puppy wrapped up in his arms, David spent some time searching the surrounding area for any other lost pups, or perhaps the mother. He combed through the surrounding underbrush and called out in the open air, but discovered nothing. It was as if the puppy just appeared there, out of nowhere. Catherine immediately began to gush over the little fur ball as soon as David walked through the door. She took the pup and cradled it in her arms like a newborn, and the puppy responded with energetic yips and a happily wagging tail. They discovered the puppy was a girl as they gave her a warm bath in the sink, washing away dirt and grime from the wilderness. They didn't see any injuries or signs of sickness, but Catherine immediately made an appointment with the nearest veterinarian's office, just to be sure. When the office asked for a name for the puppy, Catherine said the first name she thought of, Daisy. At the vet, Daisy underwent a thorough checkup. The vet estimated that she was about 6 weeks old and administered the necessary medicines and vaccines for her age. The vet could only speculate on her breed, but she pointed out her disproportionately large paws and predicted that she would grow big and strong, ideal for living on the farm. As the months flew by, the vet's predictions proved correct as Daisy grew bigger and bigger by the day. Her gangly puppy limbs soon transformed into a sturdy, powerful body. Her chestnut-colored fur lightened to a dusty brown, and she grew into her paws and floppy, fuzzy ears. Everywhere David went, she was hot on his heels, getting into trouble and playing with the other farm animals. But despite her mischievous puppy antics, she was fiercely loyal. David was patient with her and taught her that the other animals were to be protected, not terrorized. Daisy learned fast, and though she loved to curl up by the fireplace at Catherine's feet, it was evident that she was outgrowing life inside the house. The couple noticed that she seemed happier to be outside, roaming the property and instinctively watching over the animals. David crafted a warm doghouse for her from leftover wood. It was large enough to give Daisy plenty of room to stretch out and ensured to keep her warm during chilly nights. After it was nearly complete, Catherine painted a sign reading Daisy's Den. Inside, she placed a plush bed to keep her cozy, and even hand-knitted a blanket that she had worked on for weeks. It was evident that she was some breed of guardian dog, because she immediately took to watching over the animals on the property. Each morning, she would join David in patrolling the fences, trotting confidently at his side, her watchful gaze scanning for any signs of trouble. Daisy's bark became a reassuring presence if she sensed anything unusual or caught the scent of foxes. Her booming warning would echo across the fields, which was enough to send any potential threat scurrying away. Catherine and David fell in love with their life at the cottage, embracing their daily routines and appreciating the simple farm life. They found joy in caring for their animals, and most of all, with Daisy, who thrived under their attention. Each day the homestead would give back with fresh vegetables, eggs, and milk. However, Catherine still felt like one thing was missing from their homestead: a child. It wasn't much longer before Catherine discovered that she was pregnant. The happy news filled their hearts with anticipation. Looking back, Catherine realized that Daisy must have sensed the change in her before she even knew. The loyal canine had been especially protective of Catherine in recent weeks, rarely leaving her side. Now that she knew she was expecting, it all made sense. As the reality of their growing family settled upon them, Catherine and David soon realized that their cozy cottage would need more space to accommodate the upcoming member of their family. So, David, with the help from the neighbors, embarked on their biggest project yet, building an addition to the house. With David leading the charge, they carefully planned a seamless extension that blended in perfectly with the charm of the cottage. On days when she had more energy, Catherine helped to paint the walls in soothing pastels and hung hand-sewn curtains in the windows. The ever-generous local community soon got wind of the baby news. Day after day, neighbors would stop by, bearing thoughtful gifts for the couple. Baskets of hand-knitted blankets, baby clothes, colorful toys, and even jars of homemade baby food began to fill their home. Their closest neighbor, a carpenter who was always there to help David on his construction projects, gifted the couple a crib and rocking chair set that he crafted by hand over months of hard work. It was just what they needed to complete the nursery, a room built from the ground up with love and care, full of handmade treasures. Daisy began to sit by the door of the nursery, patiently waiting for the new addition to the family, already showing her devotion to the child's well-being. Seasons came and went, and Catherine's belly grew rounder with each passing month. Life went on as usual at the cottage, but there was anticipation for the upcoming baby. Even the animals could sense a change was coming as they paid closer attention to Catherine. Finally, the long-awaited day arrived. On a fateful spring morning, their baby girl was born. Catherine and David welcomed her first cries with tears of joy. She was healthy and radiant, her tiny hands curiously reaching out for the world around her. The couple was overwhelmed with love as they held her in their arms for the first time, marveling at her perfect eyes. Their hearts swelled as they both pledged to give her the happiest, most fulfilling life they could offer. From the moment they brought the baby home, Daisy understood her role as a faithful friend and loyal protector. The playful, energetic dog, known for bounding across the fields and barking at anything amiss, now approached the cradle with quiet veneration. Her warm, brown eyes watched over the tiny bundle as though it were her most important task. When the baby would cry, she would gently lick her hands or feet as if to soothe her. Naming their daughter was not a difficult decision, as the choice felt obvious. As they gazed at their newborn, sleeping peacefully in their arms, Catherine thought of her great aunt, whose cottage and legacy had provided them with this incredible life. It seemed fitting that another Violet should be brought up in a home that overflowed with love and joy. And so, their baby girl was called Violet. As the seasons continued their course, young Violet grew, her bright eyes curious and full of warmth. Daisy remained her faithful companion, always by her side as she took her first wobbly steps across the grassy fields. Catherine and David showed her the magic of the farm and watched as she continued to explore all that nature had to offer. She would stroke the soft feathers of the ducks and toss seeds to the chickens to pluck at. She would poke the cow's wet nose and laugh hysterically at the antics of the goats. The homestead finally felt complete, as though everything existed in perfect balance. It filled Catherine and David's hearts to see their daughter blossom in the life they had created, surrounded by love and hard work. They were proud to call this little place their